Hello, everybody. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the 5 losing strategies that ruin relationships. Having worked with couples and families in recovery for many years, I found this work by Terry Real to be really effective when you can recognize these qualities in yourself. So let's take them one by one. First of all, there's a need to be right. The compulsive need to be right is mostly based on fear and insecurity. And it can take the form of self-righteousness, stubbornness. That need to be right, ironically, negates the connection that we all long for. But, many I work with look at intimacy as the chance to teach somebody how to do it right. The other day I was having lunch with a close friend who has this edge of self-righteousness. And instead of reacting to her insistence that I see it her way, I simply said, "You may be right. I'll have to think about that. You may be right. I'll have to think about that." Then I changed the subject. It's a great line to use to gentle down that self-righteous behavior. Another losing strategy, of course, is control. I've learned that when you try to control everything, you enjoy nothing. Control, of course, refers to micromanaging, giving lots of direction, being picky about how things are done. And usually this comes from anxiety. At the extreme, of course, it can take the form of domestic violence, driven by severe possessiveness. David Schnarch, the preeminent couples therapist, says that if you can't regulate your own emotional temperature, you'll regulate everyone around you to keep yourself comfortable. Now, addicts, of course, often feel that other people have power over them, and the people around them are responsible for their unhappiness. Blame is part of control and shifting responsibility. I was going to write a book about blame once called "I'm Okay, You're Really Sick." The more we can accept our limitations, the less likely we are to search for other shortcomings as the source of our problems. In other words, there's always enough control to go around if the control is about managing ourselves. The third quality is called retaliation. And of course, retaliation is a way of deflecting blame and usually escalates conflict. When you're hurt, it's a natural response to want to retaliate. However, natural is not the same as good or healthy. The idea is to hold your tongue and resist the urge to attack. It's best to put a period on the discussion until, of course, both parties can calm down. But most of us, to be honest, would rather finish something to its hideous conclusion than stop and take the time to gentle down. The fourth losing strategy is called unbridled self-expression. Have you ever had the experience of sharing something emotional with somebody close to you, and all of a sudden they jump in and start telling you how they feel and go on with the litany of their story and wind up usurping all the energy? They make it about themselves. These are folks that say, "Well, I'm just being honest," or who have to say it their way at length, ad nauseum, in order to be what they say authentic. They can go on and get highly irritated if one dares to interject or if you lose attention. I think it's important to remember that talking incessantly isn't communicating, it's discharging and self-serving. Last and probably the most painful losing strategy is withdrawal and withholding love and attention. This behavior comes in many forms: the silent treatment, ignoring, not showing up, not showing affection, or not sharing important information. I believe that withholding is a form of emotional abuse. And I think it is the strategy that I believe is the most toxic. Why? Because this rejection, this withholding and withdrawal, means that authentic communication cannot occur, that underlying issues never get resolved. The antidote to withdrawing, of course, is to notice when you're shrinking, when you're withdrawing, put a period on the discussion, and call a timeout. The rule of thumb is I'll tell you when I'm leaving, and I'll tell you when I'm coming back. Then we have to practice calming, self-soothing, calling a sponsor, praying, taking a walk. So being right, controlling, unbridled self-expression, retaliation, and withholding all involve varying degrees of criticism, contempt, and fear. And before I end, I need to add that it's not our job to point these out to our partners and take their inventory. Best to focus on ourselves. In the 12 tradition, we learn in tradition 12 the following. We must put principles before personalities. This means that we practice the principles of honesty, humility, making amends, over personality conflicts. Relationships are tough, but they are the vehicle for human evolution. The willingness to grow is the essence of all spiritual development.